next speaker is Cliff again. He's speaking a lot today, and you can see it's Kwik Feas. It's not that we can't spell. It doesn't stand for fees. It stands for feasibility. So we're going to do quick feasibility, and we're also going to do quick tariff services. Thank you.
Thank you. I think the easiest, probably the best way, instead of going through a whole set of slides again, is I'd like to just take you into the software and highlight some of the features that you can appreciate and understand, rather than go through a set of boring slides. I'm going to just open it up and just pick out certain elements within this particular product that I think are in some cases new features. This is not a product that's just come about. This has been around 15 years. It's grown and changed and evolved in those 15 years into quite a complex system dealing with a whole host of issues. I'm going to just start up the program. So just excuse me because I'm going to have to run from where I am. Just go. She's gone yet. Before that disappears. Okay, so let's come up there. Right, so the system is wizard driven. You would activate the wizard either for rental or for sale, or the combination of both. So I'm going to take a very simple rental based project, run through the wizard, and it will prompt you for your inputs. Basic inputs, I'm not going to populate. I'm going to, at this level, I'm just going to say, are we basing this feasibility on highest and best use, or are we just populating our own areas? In which case you populate your areas of your building, and you then base your feasibility on what you feed in terms of what the size is. I'm going to go the route and say, feed in what the size of land is, what is the FAR, floor area ratio, coverage, etc., what my parking requirement is, and the system is going to then determine how big my building needs to be, how many parking bays are required, how many stories are we looking at, and then go through the next process from that point. So I'm going to populate a land size. We'll just take 5,000 square meters and feed in a floor area ratio of, let's just say, 0.5 and coverage 50%. If I say view building layout, the system goes through and calculates and shows you exactly what your building is looking like, how many parking bays you require, what's my construction area, what's my building area, what's my rentable area. What are my assumptions? They're all laid out here. We can print this out, and we're now going to base the feasibility on this scenario. So it's a building of 2,250 square meters, a construction area of 2,523. You'll set your dates, the timing. So we're talking, what is your pre-contract period, what is your contract period. You would populate that, and the cash flows would then be generated. It then says to you, let's deal with our building costs. So how are we going to price building costs? What are we doing with preliminaries? Are we going to use an elemental report? So I'm going to click on that building cost button, and it's going to generate an elemental report for me because I've selected that as the option. And it's going to prompt me and say, right, offices, 2,500, what is the rate per square meter? So it has a built-in database that I can interrogate. If I don't know how much a block of offices is going to cost per square meter, I can say look up cost, and I can go through and say, right, I want a low-rise prestigious office building, and what range am I looking for, below average or lower range or above average? Let's say below average, click OK, and the system prices, interrogates, and applies a rate per square meter. It will have automatically now populated a construction cost cash flow for you and produced an elemental. Very simply on rate per square meter. Primary elements, special, obviously I haven't priced these elements, I haven't priced external, preliminaries, markup, contingencies, current cost, escalations, escalated cost. If we look below, there's going to be a graph. This is the new feature that we've added. What you can do, there is an S-curve. what you can do is, I want to see how sensitive this cash flow is to change. I can, by manipulating C and K factors, I can, by increasing, you'll watch that graph change. So there you start manipulating upwards and downwards your S-curve. Or, if I wish to go the other route, just by playing with C and K factors to adjust your project. That's quite a nice feature in terms of cash flow. One of the other features that that the system allows you is not only forecasted cash flow, you'll feed in actual cash flow as and when the payments occur, and are there extensions of time, and what your expected practical completion date is going to be. So it's going to tell you, you are running 6 calendar days late at this point. In order for you to catch up, you need to be doing a certified value of work of X amount in the following month. So that's what you need to be performing if you want to be on schedule to meet your completion date. And that's just one of the features which I'm not going to go into. I'm just going to go back into the default. So that's your default. It produces your elemental. And we continue with it. And it will then prompt you through the rest of the feasibility to populate contingencies, municipal charges, the management costs that goes through the various different elements. I'm not going to go through all the detail. Click OK. Deals with escalation. It says to you, how do you want to deal with escalation? A lot of different options relating to escalation. Do you want to feed in a monthly rate? Do you want an annual rate? Do you want to use indices? Do you want to feed in your own sum of money? Do you want to apply your own cash flow factor? So you can say, I feel more comfortable with a cash flow factor of 0.55. You say, I want 0.55, you feed in 0.55, and it will adjust the S-curve accordingly. So that's purely just manipulating cash flows in order to generate a total cash flow. And what's interesting is another feature here is it projects. So it's saying to you, what you should be using is a monthly pre-contract escalation rate of 0.46. So in other words, the system is checking how long is your project. Based on your project, you should be using 0.46% per month and 0.64% for your contract escalation. Whether you choose to use those rates is your choice. Click OK. Everything relating to your land costs, transfer costs, it calculates. So if I feed in land cost of R1,000,000, and if I want the calculation of conveyancing fees, you literally double click, checks, interrogates, and goes and sees what your conveyancing fee will be on R1,000,000, computes. From a cash flow point of view, you can say when you want this to occur. You can S-curve, you can allocate it into a multi-set of payments if you wish, so that you can determine when you want to pay for whichever item you're dealing with. Click OK. Comes to your professional fees. Now this is the Kwik tariff module, part of what I'm going to be presenting. So this is the professional fee module that links directly into the feasibility module. So your options here are very simply, I can say, yes, there's an architect involved in this project. His fee is 5%, or whatever that percentage may be, or it's a sum of money. I can feed in a sum of money. That is the basis of what his fee is based on, which I can obviously adjust. But it computes and says, for example, your mechanical engineer has got nothing. There is no work involved for him, but your civil engineer is based on 1.75. So the system is automatically taking your building cost and saying, your civil works amounts to 1.75. If I want to calculate his fee is based on these numbers, I can obviously go and manipulate. But assuming that's the basis of the fee, I can say to the system, well, I don't know whether the architect's fee should be 3%, 4%, 6%, 8%, 10%, I don't know. What should the fee be if I was to go and calculate as per gazetted tariff? And similarly for all of these, for your civil, wet services, electrical, project manager, what should the fee be, assuming I was to pay according to gazetted scale? So if I wish to go that route, it says right-click in here if you want to use the tariff. So you literally right-click in that field, and the system will interrogate the tariff and calculate and says, based on that value of work of 23 million, his fee as per Gazette is 7.05%. If I want to see how that is made up, I double click on Architect and it's going to give me the breakdown. So I double click on Architect, right click on Architect, and there is the breakdown in terms of the latest Gazette Board Notice 173 of 2010. Basic value for fee purposes 23 million, primary charge marginal rate of 6.5%, basic fee 1.6 million. Is it alteration work? Is there an additional percentage? Is there a discount? Nothing at this point. Total 1.6 million. How is the fee being split? 6 stages across inception, concept, the normal 6 stages. Those are your default percentages. You can adjust. There is the split of that architect's fee across the 6 stages of that project. And the system is going to do the same for all of the consultants. So if we go back and I say, well, I now want to determine what are the fees for the package of consultants that I'm going to be using on this project in total. So I'm going to do exactly the same for QS, structural engineer, project manager, and possibly a civil engineer. Let's just assume those are the consultants that I'm using on this particular project. And interestingly, you will see we're sitting at a total package of 20% of construction, of escalated construction costs. Obviously, the client is going to say, well, that is too high. I'm not prepared to pay 20%. The question now is, what must these guys now discount back so that if we know this project is viable at, say, 12%, what do we need to adjust each of these consultants to achieve a total package of fees? And the system will then go and compute that for you. So all we're going to do is we're going to say, I want a total package of 12.5, go back, adjust the gazetted tariffs, and determine what the discount needs to be to achieve. And that's quite a complex calculation. So it says, what percentage do we want? 12.5%. Click OK, and even at that rate, you're lucky to see 12.5%. Be that as it may, it comes back, calculates and says 38.04% is what you need to be discounting to achieve your 12.5%. There are your different split of fees. You can see how your fee amounts are made up. And if I go back into, for example, the project manager, and I want to interrogate how this fee is now broken down, we right-click on him. And there you'll see his gazetted tariff of 1.1 million, and you will notice his discount coming in. There it is, less discount at 38.04% of 440,000 Rand, total of 719, and there is his split of fees across the 6 stages. So that's the tariff portion of the feasibility module. Continue the wizard. Just continue, go through. How many minutes you got? How much time you got?
4 seconds.
2 minutes.
Agents Commission. It's going to go through the whole funding side of the project. How do you want to fund the project? How much equity? What portion borrowings? Is it loan account? What is the cost of equity? What is the opportunity cost? What is the cost of borrowings? It will say I want prime plus 0.5%. The system automatically goes and checks, updates it, calculates your cost of funding, looks at terminal values, all your tax allowances, wear and tear, pre-production tax interest. Is it a commercial building? Is it a residential building? Is it a hotel building? Is it VAT exempt? Dividend withholding tax, which has now come in, 15%. Capital gains tax applies. So all the tax elements, VAT rate, what is your VAT recovery period, inputs, outputs, cash flows are going to be generated for you on a monthly basis. urban renewal tax incentives, if it is applicable. It's going to go through, generate, and show you exactly what the net profit at the end of the day is going to be. Going to show you cash flow, when you break even, how long before you break even, what's my return, what's my IRR, what's my net present value. That's essentially what the system is going to do for you. Click OK. Valuation, cap rates, and then it's going to go through all into the rental income and operating costs. It's going to ask you per tenant, what is my rental income, what's my lease term, what's the base rental, what's the recoveries, what's the escalation rates, vacancies. Take all your different leases, roll it up, calculate it in your first year, roll that up into a 20-year cash flow, and show you all of the different reporting. So very briefly, in literally 10 minutes, I can't go into more detail. I think I'll just pull out in some slides just to show you. Sorry, let me just find the slide here. Okay, very briefly, I'm just going to flick through the slides. Cash flows, sorry, that's just going through. Summary of results for all your performance indicators, that's one of the sample reports. Let's go back a slide. So we're going to go through all the detail. I think you've got an understanding just physically seeing it. Just in terms of pricing, 500 and just less than 550. Also, we're offering that price, the 3-month subscription. The professional fee module, that's just a sample at 150. So that's the pricing of how we price, and the same basis, 3 months free. So 150, you're getting the quick tariff module of the feasibility. Okay, so I think that basically completes. Any questions that I can answer on feasibility?
When you went through your costing portion there,
Yes,
I didn't see
on the construction side.
yeah, I didn't see an item stand out talking about insurance.
There is.
It is there.
I flew through it, but there's definitely PCI insurances, definitely there. Yeah, definitely. Anything else? Yeah.
Can you change areas, for instance, in the Joburg, Cape Town, the rates?
What we have provided, you saw that lookup table, so we've provided a coefficient, so you can decide the rates that we've applied are, I would say, Gauteng-based rates, but there's a coefficient that you can say, adjust that by 3% or 5%. So by feeding in one cell, it will filter that through all your rates. So effectively, yes. You would have to decide. We haven't given what Durban should be, or Natal, or Western Province. You would have to decide what that ratio is, or that coefficient. Okay. There was another hand question. Anything else? Yeah.
Cliff, is the system suitable for refurbishing existing buildings?
From a feasibility point of view, or from costing point of view? Remember, it's not a costing program. It's not an estimating system. So, yes, your input cost is your land and existing building. You have a capital cost of refurbishment. you have all the other costs of professional fees. You have your legal costs, your tenant costs, your insurance costs, and then you have your income. So what is the income that you're going to generate either from sale, you're going to be selling off residential units, or you're going to be rental income that's going to kick in at a point in time. You would determine the cash flow periods, and it's going to show you a return. Not only your initial return, but your net present value, internal rate of return, break even. And obviously the purpose of this model is not only for a developer, it's for the banks, using it as a funding model to present to the banks in the application of funding, because this is what the banks are wanting to look at. They're wanting to see how viable is this project. Should we lend you 20 million rand or shouldn't we? And what happens if things change? VAT rate changes, interest rates change, rentals are higher or lower to what you've said. How does it impact on the project? So I never mentioned one of the key, the power really lying in that feasibility program is the sensitivity. Goal seeking, what if, changing. Because you will feed in your inputs, you'll get a set of results, and 9 times out of 10, it's not the results that you're actually looking for. So we now start tweaking. What happens if I change my land, I change rentals, I change cap rates, I change building costs? How sensitive is it to different changes? And it produces those reports for you. One of the new features of Kwik Fees is the option of portfolio. So you can take feasibility of building A, feasibility building B, feasibility building C, and then take portfolio and suck up the information across A, B, and C and get a portfolio report. So that's one of the new features that's been added very recently. Okay, so that's just on a portfolio basis. Yeah.